Good afternoon, YouTubers. Well, the Prince of Wales is back. Which one, I hear you say? Because there's three. I always think of Prince Charles when you say the Prince of Wales. And of course he's been replaced, hasn't he, with his son, William, who's now the Prince of Wales. But I'm not talking about either of them, I was talking about the ship. There's a big new ship that they've got called the Prince of Wales. And it's an aircraft carrier, and it broke. Oh, getting attacked by flies. It broke. They took it out for a drive, and they bent one of the propeller shafts. So they had the option of driving around on one engine, or because you get a bend in a propeller shaft, or you lose a blade or something off a propeller, you get horrendous vibrations. So you can't run like that. So it didn't even have any F-35s or anything like that on the deck. It hadn't even got that far. It was still undergoing sea trials. So it spent a long time up in Rosyth in Edinburgh and being fixed, because you can't just buy a new shaft. You can't pick up the aircraft carrier supply shop and say, have you got a spare shaft for an aircraft carrier? They've got to make a new one, don't they, from scratch. But I think the bill came to about 25 million, something like that. I don't know, some horrendous figure. And they've put a new one in and oiled it up, and it's away now. It's sailing about. They've let it out, and crews on board, and they're hopefully going to avoid low lying rocks, so they're not going to bang the propeller shaft into another, because someone said that when it left Portsmouth Harbour to go off on sea trials, they dinged the bottom with the propeller. I don't know if that's true or not, I don't know, but that seemed to be the opinion at the time. And it's a strange thing, because they say that the Prince of Wales, there's two aircraft carriers, new ones. One's the Queen Elizabeth, which is got loads of aircraft on it, and it's all up and running. And there's the Prince of Wales, and they said when the Prince of Wales has finished all the sea trials and that, and it comes online, it's going to replace Queen Elizabeth as the flagship. Now, why would it do that? You'd think Queen Elizabeth would be a more higher ranking vessel than the Prince of Wales, wouldn't you? Who knows what the decisions are made in these places, but it's a real shame, because they're really nice looking aircraft carriers. It's a real shame that they've got diesel electric engines and not nuclear. And I thought to myself, if you're going to spend billions on an aircraft carrier, well, you got to do it properly, haven't you, and put nuclear power in there. I mean, the Americans had nuclear power submarines in the 1960s, not submarines, aircraft carriers. There are a few nuclear submarines in the Royal Navy for sure, so they've got the technology, they could do it. But they decided to scrimp a few bob and put diesel engines in them. Now, the problem with a diesel engine ship is that you need to have a fuel tanker following it everywhere and keep filling it up as you're on the move. Now, the older ones from like the Second World War, they needed filling up every 4 days. I dare say these are a little bit more economical on the fuel, but they'll still use like loads and loads of fuel, which means you're even more vulnerable, because when your tanker runs out of fuel, you need another tanker to be there that's full. Then the other tanker's got to go back to get more fuel, and so your supply lines are getting stretched, aren't they? And any enemy, right, knows that if they wanted to attack you, you've got quite a decent defence. But if they blow the tankers out the water before they get to you and before they get to your position, you know, you're heavily reliant on logistics, like fuel coming in. So if you can knock the fuel out, and I've always said the same with the tankers in the sky, you know, these fighter jets and things, they always go to tankers to refuel before they go on a mission, and maybe they refuel a couple of times depending on the mission and how long they're airborne for. and yet the tanker fleets are undefended, aren't they? So surely your enemy will just knock out the tanker fleet wherever, on the ground, in the dark, wherever, you know, and then you just can't ring up a tanker, can you? We've got any private tankers, we've got a few missions to fly, you know. That's not going to happen, is it? And someone else told me that the tanker fleet are all run by civilians, so I mean, they wouldn't want to participate in a war anyway, would they? They'd toss their jobs in, wouldn't they? No, and then you'd have to train a whole load of new people to fly the tankers. I don't know where the mentality is coming from these days for the politicians and what they're thinking. I think it's all down to bots, I really do, because as you know, as a politician, your popularity is everything. You know, what people think is so important, because if they disagree with you, you're not going to get voted in, you're going to be out of a job. You'd be a here today, gone tomorrow politician, which they are anyway, but they want to stay in and cling as long as possible. So it's very important to a politician to think, what do the people want? What's on their minds? And that's where these trolls come in, because the trolls will employ a bot farm to say something stupid, like we're all into I don't know, let's just think of something bizarre, like transgenders. You know, everyone wants to be a transgender, right? All the men want to be women, all the women want to be men, right? Let's just say they just, because you can pay for bots, you know, how many bots do you want? We'll do thousands and thousands of tweets and blogs and things all over the internet, and so they just, if you spent a couple of grand like this, because I'm sure they manipulate elections as well, you know. They say, oh yeah, everyone's voting Labour, everyone's voting, get the trolls out there, get the trolls, want 10 million, no chance the Tories are going to get in, it's Labour's going to clean up, Labour's going to... And while the politicians are watching all this, they'll be thinking, oh my god, the polls, Labour's going to sweep the floor with us, you know. And they really, they're so easily manipulated and played with, the politicians, you know. If they genuinely think that the people want something and want something else, and throw yourself off a cliff party, you know. Oh yes, when we get into power, everyone's going to throw themselves off a cliff, and they could get the trolls to do all this, and everyone would be convinced that we're all going to jump off a cliff when this party get in. It's all madness and nonsense, and we need to do something about it. The internet needs to really, because there's no one, I don't know about you, but I type with two fingers like this. I know my son can do all that, and Fiona, but I can't. I have to target each key, and you sort of remember where the keys are, but I'm still typing with two fingers. So there's only so many tweets. I don't even do Twitter, right? But let's just pretend I do. How many tweets can you tweet in a minute? Right? And if someone's tweeting like 10,000 tweets a minute, they're clearly not human, are they? And so there must be ways that these people can be trapped and deleted from the face of the earth. Because I think trolls are very sad, lonely people who under normal circumstances would be in the asylum, and they've closed all the asylums, especially in the UK, just to save money. Again, it's like the nuclear powered aircraft carrier. Oh, can't we just put a diesel engine? It'd be cheaper, wouldn't it, eh? When I was in the army, we had a thing called a 24-hour ration pack, and it was like this big, and it had one man, 24-hour ration pack written on it, and every man got issued with one in training. And we thought, oh right, okay, so we know what to do, we're all sort of clued up, ready to go on exercise and this. And once we'd all passed out and we were in a proper unit and we were going on exercise, we had to share a 24-hour ration pack between 4 men. I'm not joking, 4 men, 1 ration pack per day, which meant whoever was in charge of the ration pack, like the corporal, he got all the best bits, he got the chocolate and everything, and I'd finish up with the biscuits that are dead hard and thick, and you can't even bite them, you know. And this is what the British are like, they're always penny pinching, and it works out worse for them in the end. you know, because you think you're doing something. Quite often you look around and you think, I made the mistake. I had an e-scooter a couple of years ago, and I seen everyone flying around them. I thought, they're good, I want one of them. How much are they? Well, 500 quid. I thought, 500 quid. Anyway, I saw one in Carrefour in the supermarket, and it looked just the same. And I think it was like, I can't remember exactly, let's just say it was 150 quid, and I thought, yes, go on. So I bought it, and I was whizzing round on it, and it was great, but it didn't last 6 months, and the battery died, and then that was it. But in the meantime, Ben bought one, and Lady Faith had one, and one at a time they all packed up within 6 months. And yet the kid who's got the £500 one, he's probably still riding around on it now. So by trying to save money, what I'm saying is, by trying to save money, penny pinch, you've actually done yourself a disservice, really, because if you'd paid the proper money in the first place, you could have had a quality product instead of a piece of garbage that's still under the bed in the house. I've got one of these beds that lifts up, and we put them all in there. I thought I'll make one out of all of them one day, and I never bothered. They're just still lying under the bed. They go, they're working perfect, but the batteries have had it. And I did look into building batteries, because you've got all these boffins on the internet. Oh yes, as a matter of fact, I can build a battery. And they get all these little batteries that are 1 volt each, and they tape them all together. And then they put all these little strips across, and then they put a circuit board with a spider going to all different places. And I just tested with my multimeter, and they're all there, like, and you think, whoa, 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 show me again. And I thought, so you could build your own battery. You could send off to China for these batteries. You need 32 or 34 volt, something like that. Anyway, I never bothered. I was going to build my own battery and sort of try to get one of them going again, but I never did. So the moral of the story is, don't penny pinch, right? If you want something, do it properly. Don't botch it. Remember a guy, if you look back through my videos, there was one about Paco's Bar, which was a bar that these lads built, and they built it on the back of the toilet on this campsite. They literally butted it up against the toilet, and the toilet was sloping up downhill. And they just laid cement on the mud, on the ground. No foundations, nothing. And the guy, they said to him, we need a lintel above the door, you know, because to hold the weight. Because when you're putting bricks over the top of the door, the weight of it, and he got the thinnest lintel he could find, a bit of aluminium strip or something like that. So as you put the bricks on, the thing started to bend. Honestly, he's such a penny pincher, and he had sheets of cardboard, plywood. It wasn't even for the doors in the showers, it was just like hardboard, you know, with some little screws, and you think, well, that's going to fall off within a week, and it did. So we just spent money that was just useless, because whatever application he was using it for wasn't fit for purpose, so it broke, and it just cost him more money, because he had to go out and buy something else to do the job properly. So it finished up costing him more money than it would have cost in the first place. And that's the problem with the Prince of Wales, you see. Should be a nuclear aircraft carrier. It's too late now, because they put the engines in, don't they, and then they build the whole aircraft carrier around the engines, and so you can't like go and buy a new engine and take that one out without major trauma. I've seen boats, some boats, they've got no access to the engine room, and you've got to cut a big hole in the side of the boat and winch the engine out, so then you can put the new engine in. They've got to weld the hole back up. Bizarre, absolutely bizarre. Well, Fiona's gone to the shops to get some food for dinner, because hopefully Ben and Alice are coming round for dinner. Now, Fiona rang them up and said, "Oh, do you want to come round for dinner?" So they went, "Yeah, okay." And she went, "Oh," because she expected them to say no. So she thought, "Oh no, I've got to go and get some food." So she's off to the shops.